and welcome back to another episode of Screen Tested. I am your host Tyrant, where we take things from movies, TV shows, pop culture, try to create them in the real world and test them one-to-one from the media that they come from. And in today's episode, we're finally taking a look at a cyberpunk weapon, the Mantis blade. I think this one's going to be an interesting one because this falls into the realm of stuff we've kind of done before, right? I think this is in the same sort of vein as like the hidden blade, maybe Wolverine's claws, kind of like unorthodoxly mounted weapons. It goes like this. Now there are some caveats we should get to, and that is, obviously this is not a one-to-one replica. The one in the game is a prosthetic. It's like, it's a part of your arm, if not like your forearm and stuff. Like, there's caveats, right? But let's just kind of go through and see if it would be a good weapon if it was like, you know, a part of your skin, because I think there's some interesting points to bring up. Also, some, I would say, strange stuff as well. But you know what isn't strange? This segue to today's sponsor. So a little while ago, Temu reached out and they said, hey, we want to send you a couple of items that you can either review or do a dedicated episode on. Now, I was actually really happy about this because I use sites like Temu all the time to buy like supplies and things for different projects on the channel because I need a good price for things or else I won't be able to do it. And these are what I chose. Now I want to make this clear right off the bat. Everything I say in today's episode is my own opinion, whether it's good or bad. Now, these items here, I'm quite happy with. This one here is a Cyberpunk katana. This is like 20-30 bucks. It's really, really cheap. It has a light in it, and I'm quite happy with it. So happy with it that you might be seeing a dedicated episode on this coming soon, right? On top of that, we've also got the Mantis blade, like we're going to be doing in today's episode. This is what it's all about, right? There's also here some Black Myth Wukong staffs. They sent two. One is a little bit smaller than the other, but these are pretty. I wish I had them when I did the episode, right? There was also this. I wanted to show you guys this. This here is a purity seal. Look, I usually make my own, but like 10 bucks. Now you can download the Temu app at the link in the description or scan the QR code that's currently on the screen right now. When you download the app, in the search bar, put in DWY2993 and you will get a $100 discount to pick up like any of these items or any other items that you're interested in on the app. But with all that being said, let's get back to today's episode and see how this Mantis blade goes. Remember, if you want to pick one of these up, scan the QR code or just check on the app. I'm sure you'll be able to find this exact one. So in today's episode, we're going to be a little bit more hypothesizing and theorizing with the Mantis blade than usual, and the reason why is I just don't think that this is a good one-to-one of like a real Mantis blade. Like, it's really cool, and I do think I could put some blades on it and we could, you know, hit some stuff and that would be fun. But I don't think we could draw any concrete conclusions to like an actual Mantis blade. I just think there's too many caveats. First and foremost being it's attached to your forearm, like it's a part of your arm. And I think that's a big, interesting like dynamic. And there's also like the articulation point, kind of the real Mantis blade can go forward, which means that it has a little bit more length rather than just coming up to my fingers. And this blade here can also kind of extend like the hidden blade. So what I thought we'll do today is kind of go for a realistic route. If this was real, if this was a real blade, how would it kind of go? I think it would be attached to a big brace that would go on your forearm, kind of like this, but much more secure. You would have some real blades here and maybe some sort of extending mechanism. So first and foremost, I think this is like a complicated weapon in terms of its use. When I look at this, I think to myself, I go, what would be the context that I would use this? Would I be fighting other people with it? Like, would I be fighting unarmed people? Because if you're fighting unarmed people, literally any weapon or force multiplier is good in that situation. Would I be fighting other weapons? Would I be fighting, you know, a katana, for example? Because the moment that I think that I have to put this up against another weapon, I don't think it's very useful. And the first reason is range. I don't really have that much range. Like we said, the caveat is the actual Mantis blade in the game can articulate and go a little bit forward, but even then, it only goes out to like here. It's not actually that long if you compare that to, you know, even this. This is a really short little katana. Holding this is much, much more length. Much more length. So even something like this gives you way more length and way more control and leverage. Something like this is attached to your forearm in a really strange sort of way, and when you actually hit something, a lot of that force is going to get sent straight back here, which is going to get sent straight back here, which is then going to try and pull this back. which is going to pull your arm back. It's not like punching, because when you punch, for example, if somebody was coming really, really close to me and I wanted to punch them, my arm is touching my body and it's still 10 inches away from me just to hit someone that close. Now, obviously you can try and step back, sure. But I'm just talking about as a range thing, trying to hit things. You have like a 7-8 inch offset from your arm. Now, when it came to the offset on, the hidden blade, that was only like, let's say, 1 inch. And it wasn't too bad. You could get used to it relatively quickly, but it still is kind of strange. An offset like this will take some time to get used to. And even then, I don't really see why I would want to have such a huge offset on the weapon. In terms of fighting with it, how would I fight with it? Because it doesn't really have a good defensive capabilities. I think that's how I would describe it, right? Now, having 2 of them, I do think that's pretty cool. You would be able to throw some crazy combos. And I do think that is like, that's awesome. All right, enough of the discussion. I couldn't help myself. Let's hit some things with this. Now, I said this isn't a perfect one-to-one. This is more of a cosplay piece, right? This is for, display or, going out and dressing up, things like that. But I do think that it's strong enough to at least get some hits in, and I want to hit some things. You guys want to see me hit some things. So I put some razor blades on it. So let's hit some things really, really quickly. It's not the most stable thing, but I do think that I should be able to get a swing in, and that offset is crazy. Should we do a thrust first or a slash? I want to do a slash. Let's do a slash. See, look at that weird positioning I got to get myself into. Let's do that again. That was pretty cool. That was actually pretty cool. The Mantis blade, it can be used. It is strong enough. I could probably modify it if I wanted to do a follow-up in another episode and actually get this thing going, right? Actually swinging it around. It is kind of, we've got to fix up that mounting issue. And while I was out here, I also brought the Wukong staff because I wanted to show you guys just how big it is and how good it looks. I'm actually pretty happy with this thing. I reckon you could probably spar with this thing, honestly. Yeah. It actually has really, really good structural rigidity, and it was able to hold up to all of that. Remember, if you want to pick one of these up, they are for cosplay. I just modified mine a little bit to be a bit more fun. But if you want to get one, you can get one from the QR code above. All right, let's get back to the discussion. So let's go over some of the detriments that I see with the Mantis blade design. First and foremost, the efficient transfer of kinetic energy. For example, if I am to strike and punch, I will use all the kinetic energy in my body to transfer all the way down my arm to concentrate it at my fist and then into a target. Same thing with a blade. You thrust, you're moving all that kinetic energy through your body into the blade, into your target. The problem with something like this is because it's so offset from your arm, it means that a lot of that kinetic energy is going to be lost in the pivot points and the mounting point. Now, the one in the game doesn't have as much as a huge offset, so it's not going to be as bad, but it's one of those things where you're still going to have that issue. The next detriment I see to this sort of design, and it does apply to these other ones, is you can't perform complex movements. For example, my wrist can articulate in a lot of different ways. So with a blade, I can pull off reverse edge cuts. I can move this blade around quite freely. However, with something like this, because it's attached to your arm can't really articulate in those sorts of ways. So you're kind of relegated to thrusts and slashes, which is just not as good as a regular blade. And then the last and final detriment that I see with this design, and applying to these other ones as well, you can't let it go. If something happens with the blade, it gets stuck, you're in a spot of bother, you can't let go of it. It's attached to your body. Specifically, the Wolverine claws and this one, they are actually attached to your skeleton in a way. At least with the hidden blade, you could probably just quickly cut it off if you really needed to. With these designs, you can't let go of them. But yeah, just an interesting weapon that I kind of wanted to have a little bit of a ramble about. I'm genuinely curious to hear some of your guys' thoughts on a real Mantis blade. How would they be applied in the real world? How would you fight with them? What would they be fighting against? And do you think that they are a legit design? Now, I do think having 2 of them would make them, it's very intimidating, and obviously it increases your chances of, and someone up, but at the same time, I just think there's so much here that is not good weapon design. That's probably how I'd put it, right? I just don't think that they are the most practical or useful weapon, and I'm talking even in like the Cyberpunk verse, why would I want to dedicate my entire forearm? Doesn't actually have that much usable blade length when they have like a perfectly good katana on hand that doesn't require me to sacrifice my entire arm or forearm, gives me more reach, gives me more control, and it doesn't have, it doesn't have any issues with, defense or offense. And if you want to use two of them, just pick up another Cyberpunk katana. It's just interesting because it's such a cool weapon. I think this is a cool weapon. I like the design of it, I like the look of it, I like it on the forearm. It's cool as. I just don't know what I would use it for. It's a very weird one, It's not like the hidden blade, which, I have my gripes with the hidden blade, but at the same time, I do think it's really, really cool to have something just mounted over here, like a little blade, and you can just straight up punch with it. I think that's cool. Same with Wolverine claws, there's some issues with the 3 blades, but at the same time, there is practical applications that I could definitely see being used for both of these. With this one, I have a hard time thinking of what practical applications I would use this for or where I would apply it. But yeah, that's going to be all for today's episode. Remember to check out the links down below if you want to pick up one of these from Temu. I think they're pretty cool. I actually might pick up a second one just because maybe I might do another episode in the future, modifying it. Who knows? Who knows? But that's going to be all for today. Thank you guys for watching. Genuinely hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. And as always, I'll see you next week in another episode.